At my mom's birthday, I walked in with a handwritten letter from my kids in a small gift box. My sister rolled her eyes and said, "You always have to be the emotional one." My mom just said, "Set it down and sit over there." I nodded, set it down, and left. 20 minutes later, my brother texted, "Why did her card get declined at dinner?" An hour later, my dad was banging on my door. I opened it and saw. I think the moment I realized they never really cared about me, or my kids, was the exact second my mom looked at the gift box in my hands and told me to just set it down and sit over there. No smile. No interest in what her grandkids had made her. Just that cold, familiar tone she reserves for me, like I'm the family inconvenience who keeps showing up uninvited. The thing is, I didn't go over the top. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I just wanted to do something meaningful. Evan, my 11-year-old, stayed up the night before writing a letter he kept rewriting because he wanted it to be perfect. He called her the cobbler queen, and told her how he missed her stories. Nora, who's 7, spent 2 hours drawing this picture of her and Grandma planting daffodils. They were so proud. And I was proud of them. So yeah, I bought a nice carved wooden box to put it all in, added a pair of vintage earrings I found from a jewelry dealer in Maine, ones I remember my mom once pointing at in an old Sears catalog, and I included an $800 prepaid Visa card. Not a flex, just something useful, because I remembered her complaining last year that she never gets anything she can actually use. I walked into the restaurant, carrying the box, and immediately saw Melanie's eyes roll. She was in one of her blazers that probably cost more than my mortgage payment, seated at the center like she was the guest of honor. Her kids were already halfway through their plates, loud and messy, and no one seemed to care. "You always have to be the emotional one," she said. Not to me, but loud enough that I was supposed to hear it. Daniel glanced up from his wine glass, gave me a nod like I was the waiter. Mom didn't even reach for the box. Didn't ask what was in it. Just looked at me, then at the empty seat at the end of the table. "Set it down and sit over there." I nodded. Set it down right in front of her. And then I walked out. Not in a dramatic storm-off kind of way. I just didn't feel like pretending anymore. Not one of them called out after me. Not a single person even got up to see what was in the box. I got in my car and drove until I hit a gas station 20 minutes away. I sat there, staring at the windshield, watching a couple argue over a scratch ticket in the parking lot. I didn't even feel sad, just disappointed in myself for thinking this time might be different. Then my phone buzzed. "Daniel, why did her card get declined at dinner?" "No." "Hey, you okay?" "No." "Where'd you go?" Just that. Blunt. Accusatory. Like it was some kind of stunt I pulled to humiliate them. I didn't answer. Just stared at the screen. An hour later, loud pounding on the door shook me out of it. I opened it to find my dad standing there with the gift box in his hands like it was garbage he was returning. He looked pissed. "You think this is funny? You gave her a fake card? She tried to pay with it, and it got declined. Right there in front of everyone." I didn't say anything. Just reached for the box. I opened it, Evan's letter, Nora's drawing, but the card was gone. "I activated it yesterday. Full balance," I said. That's all I could get out before he turned and walked off. No questions. No space for explanation. Just pure accusation and disgust, like he couldn't wait to believe the worst about me. And there I was, standing in the doorway, holding this half-empty box of love my kids poured their hearts into, knowing full well it never even had a chance. That was the moment. Not the restaurant. Not Melanie's snide comment. Not even Mom's indifference. It was standing there, holding that box, realizing they didn't lose respect for me. They never had it to begin with. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table while Evan and Nora were still asleep, and I called the number on the back of the Visa card. I gave them the details and waited. The automated voice told me the balance, $800. Then I asked to speak to someone, just to be sure. After a few minutes, a guy named Joel confirmed it had been activated, no holds, no flags. I asked him to check if anyone had even attempted to use it. He said no. No attempts. Not at dinner, not anywhere. So I sat there, phone still warm in my hand, staring at the box like it might change the facts. They hadn't even tried the card. Not once. It wasn't declined. It was ignored. The story they told, my mom handing it to the waiter, the embarrassment, the fake sympathy from Melanie, none of it happened. They just needed a reason to turn a moment of effort into something shameful. And they never read the letters. Never mentioned Evan's note or Nora's drawing. I knew that too. I didn't tell my kids what happened. Evan kept asking if Grandma liked the part where he said her cobbler was better than cake. Nora wanted to draw another version of her garden picture, but with a cat this time. I told them we'd talk to Grandma soon, but I already knew we wouldn't. That afternoon, Daniel texted me. We're going ahead with the cafe launch in October. Dad said you're still in for the capital? The cafe was this long-time idea they'd been tossing around for years. A cozy little spot downtown. Supposedly inspired by Mom's dream of owning a bakery, though I doubt she's ever baked anything that didn't come from a box. They wanted me as the main investor. I'd done well the last few years, and they knew it. I was the safe bet. Quiet. Low maintenance. They'd get the money, the business, and all the credit. But I hadn't wired $1 yet. Hadn't signed a thing. I was supposed to finalize the paperwork next week. Instead, I left Daniel's text unanswered. Later that night, a group message popped up. Melanie, of course. Thanks everyone for a lovely dinner. Special thanks to Dad for picking up the tab after the little hiccup, smiley face. Daniel laughed at it. My mom dropped a heart emoji. Me? I stared at it for a minute. Then I took the box out again, opened it slowly like it might still carry some magic. Nora had drawn herself holding my mom's hand, both of them with ridiculous smiles and huge eyes. Evan's letter had that last line scratched and rewritten 5 times. He'd made sure it ended with, I love you even if I don't see you much. I sat there for a while before sending a message back to Daniel. Change of plans? I'm pulling out of the cafe project. Something came up. The reply came instantly. What do you mean? You said you were all in? I didn't answer. He called. I watched the screen light up and go dark. Then again. Then Melanie. Then Mom. None of them left a voicemail. The texts that followed swung from confused to passive-aggressive to flat-out angry. Daniel, you're blowing this up for what? A dinner misunderstanding? Melanie, we can't keep accommodating your emotional episodes. Accommodating. That word sat in my stomach like a stone. They were never going to see my kids as part of their family. Not really. Not like Melanie's kids, who get sleepovers and birthday parties and photos on the fridge. So I stopped replying. Turned my phone over. They made it clear I wasn't part of their plans. So now I wasn't in theirs either. It started almost immediately. The tone of everything changed. Like someone had flipped a switch and decided to pretend the last few days never happened. Daniel called first thing in the morning. His voice was calm, upbeat, like we were just catching up over coffee. No mention of the card, no mention of my walking out, just a casual pitch like nothing had gone wrong. Hey man, I was thinking more about the cafe. We really want your input. It should be a full family thing, not just a money thing. You know, your ideas, your vibe, even the kids, they could have a corner or something. Make it a real legacy. The word legacy was supposed to sweeten it. I could hear how hard he was trying to sound warm. Then Melanie texted. Totally meant the card thing as a joke. We were just messing around, you know how I get. But seriously, I'd love to use Nora's garden drawing for a mural wall. So cute. Nora's drawing had been crumpled at the bottom of that box when I found it. They hadn't even touched it. And now suddenly it was. So cute. Then came my mom. She didn't text. She called. I let it ring 3 times before it went to voicemail. Then she called again. On the 3rd try, she left a message. Alex, honey, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I really don't want things to get blown out of proportion. This cafe is something I've always wanted. Your father and I talked about it last night, and we'd love to have your full support, not just financially, but in every way. Call me. Not once did she ask about Evan or Nora. Not once did she mention the letters they wrote, or the fact that I left her birthday dinner without a word from anyone. That afternoon I was outside in the yard, pulling weeds, needing to do something physical just to keep from boiling over. My phone rang again, an unknown number this time. I almost didn't pick up, but I did. Alex, it's Linda. It took me a second to place her. My mom's longtime friend. She was at most family gatherings when I was a kid, always the one sneaking me a second slice of pie when Mom wasn't looking. We hadn't talked in years. I just wanted to tell you something you probably already suspect, she said. They were at brunch yesterday. I was at the table. Your name came up. She hesitated. Melanie said you hadn't sent the money yet, and she said, we just need to keep him sweet until it clears. Then they all started talking about how to make you feel included just long enough. It wasn't subtle, Alex. It was awful. I didn't say much. I didn't have to. She ended the call by saying, I know I'm probably going to get flack for telling you, but I couldn't sit with that and not say something. You're a good father. You and your kids deserve better. After I hung up, I went inside, poured a glass of water, and sat at the table staring at my phone. Then I typed out a message to Daniel. I've decided not to be part of the cafe project. I wish you all the best with it. The read receipt came up within seconds. Then the typing dots. Then they disappeared. 5 minutes later, he called. I didn't answer. Then Melanie. I let it ring. Then my mom again. They were fast. Panic travels quickly when money's involved. By nightfall, I got an email from my dad. 3 sentences. This was your mother's dream. You've let everyone down. I hope you're proud. Not a word about the lies. The fake story about the card. The way they humiliated me in front of my kids' gifts. Just a guilt trip, wrapped in entitlement. I didn't reply. They'd made it clear where we stood. I just finally believed them. I thought cutting myself out of the cafe plans would be the end of it. They'd be mad, sure, maybe throw a few guilt trips around, and then move on. But I gave them too much credit. I forgot what happens when you stop playing the role they assigned to you, when you stop being useful. The texts kept coming. Daniel, this isn't just about you. Don't make it ugly. Melanie, you think this is helping your kids? Is this who you want to be to them? Then one from my dad, short and blunt. Fix this by Sunday. Family meeting. Be there. No one asked if I was okay. No one asked what the kids thought or how they were handling all this. To them, this wasn't about what they'd done. It was about control slipping out of their hands. I ignored the messages. But what I didn't expect, what caught me completely off guard, was how quickly they went from cold silence to full-on retaliation. It started small. A weird alert from my bank saying my business account was temporarily frozen. A clerical hold flagged due to a conflict in ownership claims. I called my lawyer immediately. She dug into it and found that someone had submitted documents questioning the legitimacy of my LLC, an LLC that Daniel had briefly been connected to years ago when I helped him with a failed property flip. He never removed his name from the secondary paperwork. I'd forgotten all about it. But clearly he hadn't. My lawyer was calm but direct. This wasn't random. Someone did this intentionally. And they knew exactly what to send in to create a delay. It delayed 2 client payments. I had to make calls. Apologize. Move things around. It was a hit, not a big one, but it was personal. That night, I got a call from Linda again. I wasn't going to get involved anymore, she said. But you should know, Melanie's been bragging. She told someone at brunch that if you weren't going to play nice, they'd make it harder for him to breathe financially until he comes crawling back. Her words. They laughed. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel hurt. I felt calm. Like a line had finally been crossed and I didn't even need to think about what came next. Sunday came. Their so-called family meeting. I didn't show up. Instead, I sent one message. This time, directly to my parents. I'm not coming. I know what's been said. I know what's been done. I won't play along anymore. You can have your business, your brunches, your plans. But from now on, you do it without me, and without my kids. We're out. The message was delivered. Not read. Hours passed. Then my mom called. I let it ring the first time. Then the second. On the third I picked up. She didn't say hello. She didn't ask how I was. She said, if you're choosing this path, you and your children are no longer a part of this family. You walked away. We didn't push you. I said, okay. Then she added something else. Something so sharp, it didn't even register until I hung up. We'll be revising things legally. From this moment forward, we recognize only Melanie's children. They are our grandchildren. The rest is finished. I didn't reply. I walked into the living room where Evan and Nora were playing a board game on the floor. I sat down with them, trying to smile. But they noticed something was off. Evan asked if we were going to Grandma's again soon. Nora said she wanted to show Grandma her new picture of a dog wearing sunglasses. I didn't know what to say. I just pulled them close. Nora started crying first. Evan followed after, trying to hold it in. I didn't have answers. Just arms to wrap around them. And a promise I silently made to myself, right there on the floor. That door is closed. For good. After that call, I didn't expect to hear from any of them again, not soon, not ever. I figured they'd hold to what my mom said. That we were done, cut out. But when you're dealing with people who only see value in others when they need something, they never really let you go. Not completely. 3 days passed without a word. Then, suddenly, an email arrived from my dad. Subject line: regarding the estate. I almost laughed. Inside, it was a polite, sterile message about updating wills and formalizing family boundaries. It said that, moving forward, Melanie and her children would be the primary beneficiaries. There would be no future provisions for unengaged descendants. I sat back and stared at it. That word, unengaged. Like we were a charity they'd decided to stop sponsoring. I didn't reply. There was nothing to say. I thought that would be it. But the real moment, the one that sealed everything, came a week later at a local community event. A charity dinner at Nora's school. I didn't know they'd be there. I hadn't even considered it. I was standing with Evan, helping him with one of the raffle tickets, when I heard Melanie's voice behind me. There he is. Didn't know they let outsiders in tonight. I turned. She was with Mom and Dad, all dressed up like they were royalty. Her kids were running wild nearby, grabbing cupcakes off the table without asking. My mom didn't even look at me. My dad nodded like we were strangers. Then he turned to someone next to him, another parent I barely knew, and said, "These are our grandkids," motioning to Melanie's boys. "They're the ones that matter to us." He said it casually, like it was just a thing people say. Evan froze. He heard it. I could tell from the way his shoulders tensed. Nora had her arms around my leg and was staring up at my mom, waiting. Hoping. But no one acknowledged her. Nothing. I didn't make a scene. I didn't walk over or say anything back. I just crouched down, told them we were leaving, and walked them out to the car. Halfway home, Nora whispered, "Did we do something wrong?" I shook my head. Said no. That none of this was about them. But when we got home, Evan went straight to his room. Didn't say a word for the rest of the night. That was when I knew I couldn't keep hoping they'd change. Not for me. Not for my kids. Not even by accident. The next morning, I sent an email. Short. No emotion. No second chances. To be clear, I will not be contributing to the cafe. I will not be revisiting any part of the family business. And I no longer wish to be included in future family matters of any kind. Consider this permanent. I didn't wait for replies. I didn't expect any. And I finally felt free. Not happy. Not relieved. But free. And that was enough. Weeks passed. I stayed quiet. They did too, for a while. I focused on Evan and Nora, who slowly began to stop asking about Grandma and Grandpa. Their drawings changed. The people in them got fewer. Sometimes it was just the three of us now. Sometimes just them and a big sun in the sky, nothing else. Then, one afternoon, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Handwritten. I opened it expecting more bitterness or some half-hearted legal threat. Inside was a photo. A printed photo. It was a staged shot of Melanie, her kids, and my parents sitting in front of what looked like a storefront with a "Coming soon, the Garden Cafe" sign in the window. My mom's handwriting was scrawled on the back. Sometimes you have to build your dream without the ones who walk away. They didn't have the money. I knew that. I'd seen the numbers, the quotes, the rent costs. It wasn't possible. Unless they found someone else. I made a few quiet calls. Nothing formal. Just conversations with a few local vendors and contractors I used to work with. One of them, a general contractor named Greg, called me back. "Yeah, they're scrambling," he said. "Melanie told me someone from out of town is backing the whole thing. Silent partner. But here's the kicker, they want it open in 6 weeks. It's not even zoned right. No permits filed. It's all talk right now." Something wasn't adding up. If they had real money behind them, they wouldn't be pushing so fast, cutting corners. They were trying to make it look like something was happening, probably for appearances. Maybe to pull someone in. Or maybe to lure me back in. I kept it to myself. Watched from a distance as they put up more signs. Posters on social media. A countdown. Then Linda called again. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "Melanie's been telling people you're still involved. That you're just taking a break from the family but planning to return in time for the grand opening." I didn't say a word. "Alex, I think they're counting on the idea that you'll cave. They're using your name in quiet conversations with investors. Telling people your support is still coming. That's how they got this far." It all made sense now. They never accepted that I was gone. Not really. They just pretended to buy time, to spin a version of the story that kept them relevant. And now they were lying in my name to keep the whole thing afloat. I hung up the phone, walked outside, and stood in the driveway for a long time. Then I made a decision. The next morning, I contacted a lawyer. A good one. Not for anything dramatic, but to formally remove my name from any lingering legal or business affiliations tied to the family. Every document. Every LLC. Every database. My lawyer moved quickly. Within 2 days I had paperwork proving I was legally severed from every shared asset or interest with them. I didn't say a word to the family. Instead, I sent a single email to the local paper. An interview request. About entrepreneurship and walking away from toxic partnerships. I didn't name names. I didn't even mention the cafe. But the message was clear to anyone who knew. A week later, the article ran. My face, my story, my voice. Quiet, clean, factual. I never heard from them again. But I didn't need to. Because I knew the one thing they feared more than losing me was losing the illusion that they still had me. 3 months later, I got a message from Linda again. Simple and short. "It's over." I didn't ask what she meant. I already had an idea. Still, I drove past the cafe out of curiosity. The windows were papered over, the sign gone. The "coming soon" banner was curled at the edges, half torn, flapping in the breeze. No construction, no permits posted, no activity. It had never opened. Not even close. Later that day, I heard through a former vendor that their silent investor had backed out. Apparently, after the article came out, the one where I didn't name names but made it clear I was distancing myself from something, the investor asked questions. Real ones. And the answers didn't hold up. There were whispers of unpaid deposits, a lawsuit from a contractor, and something about financial misrepresentation. I didn't follow it too closely. I didn't need to. Then, out of nowhere, I got an email from my dad. One line. "You win." That was it. I stared at it for a long time. There was no satisfaction in it. No revenge fantasy coming true. Just proof that I was never the problem. I replied with one word. Goodbye. I deleted the thread after sending it. A week later, I took Evan and Nora to a small town on the coast for the weekend. We stayed in a rental with a fire pit and ate way too much seafood. One night, Evan sat next to me, poking at a marshmallow over the flames. "Are we ever going to see them again?" he asked. I looked at the fire, then at him. "No," I said. "And that's okay." He nodded. "Okay." Nora leaned against me and fell asleep like that. And I realized that sometimes the best endings are quiet. No fireworks. No screaming. Just a door closed for good, and the peace that finally comes when you stop hoping it'll open again.